Good evening, everyone. This is your host, Mason Sims, and thank you for tuning in to another episode this evening. Joining us today is Pastor Mark Burns. He's a spiritual diplomat for President Donald J. Trump. So he'll be sharing with us some of his experiences that he has had since agreeing to accept the position. And he's actually local like I am right here in Eansville, South Carolina. So it'll be an honor to have him as he takes a break from his busy schedule to join us. So again, my name is Mason Sims, and let's get started. One. Good evening, everybody. This is Mason Sims, your host, and joining me today I have Pastor Mark Burns. He is the spiritual diplomat for the Trump administration. And Pastor Burns, thank you for joining us this evening.
Happy to be here, Mason. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, and most people probably know who you are around this area, but those that maybe don't follow politics much, feel free to tell us about yourself and what you do.
Well, again, I'm just a spiritual diplomat that loves the Lord Jesus Christ and have been with President Donald Trump for the last 12 years. And Time Magazine labeled me as Trump's top pastor, and I get the privilege and the honor of going around the world to spread the good news of Jesus while being a spiritual diplomat and do a lot of we call quiet diplomacy.
Right, and just kind of describe your trip to DRC. Did you have good experience there?
I did. I went to the Democratic Republic of Congo. For those who don't know, they are in a conflict right now with a armed group called M23 that's attacking the eastern side of the DRC, and they are backed by the neighboring country of Rwanda. And so I met with President Tshisekedi at his home in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and he shared his thoughts about how the U.S. can help in that particular situation, conflict. And I'm so happy that we have a deal that's actually been signed today, May 2nd deal between Rwanda and the DRC to have a ceasefire, and also to strengthen the United States of America's mineral deal that's happening from the DRC. So we have a lot of history with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Most people don't know that it was the DRC that supplied the uranium that created the atomic bomb that dropped in Nagasaki and
Hiroshima.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Oh my Lord, I'm just having a brain for Nagasaki. Thank you. I
Yes.
literally had a brain fart right there. My brain just went away. But they dropped the bombs on Japan. So the DRC had a big hand in helping us do that because of the rare minerals that's in the ground. And so I'm really happy to see that's happening. And the goal is to save lives, Mason, to save as many people lives as possible. A lot of killing was happening there. And so I'm happy that we're coming to a resolution for that.
Yes, and I'm glad they were good too, because that did concern me when I think like a couple weeks ago before he went, it said that there was a massive beheading of Christians over in that area.
And that happened on the eastern side of again, that was far from the capital of Kinshasa and to where we are or where we were, where the president's palace and his home was. I was really humbled to be at his home, his personal home. And but again, the United States is intervening. President Tshisekedi made clear that he is friends to the United States of America and not China. And so I was happy to hear that and happy to help make those relations stronger and to put us in a good place where we bring peace in that region.
Well, that's great. And so, out of the spiritual diplomats, are you the only one with the Trump administration, or does he have several that are scattered out all throughout the world?
Well, so let's just be clear. My role is an informal role. Again, as you know, I was just in the White House yesterday, and I have this wonderful pen that the president gave me. This is going to be one of my cherished moments. He signed an executive order that is protecting religious freedoms in America. And unlike other parts of the world where people, whether you're Christians or Muslims or Hindus or what have you, they are not protected. They're getting bruised, beat just because of their religious freedom, religious faith. But in America, we don't believe in that. We believe that you have a right to worship in freedom, and that, of course, that means it's protecting Christians as well. so that we can pray in our businesses and pray in our jobs and pray in schools and not have to worry about the federal government getting involved with our prayer life. And the president signed. These are one of the pens that he used the sign. So it was a great honor to receive this. He only had 8 of them, and all of the leaders that were there, he gave me one of them, and so for that I'm very honored and grateful. And I have the close relationship with him and his administration, the higher leaders of his current administration, and I get to communicate my thoughts, working with the National Security Council and communicate things that I hear and see and do, and ultimately the goal is to bring peace around the world, where the killings stop. Hence why I was in Ukraine, to try to help, mitigate that situation to where, again, we bring the truth that's happening around the world, and to
Right.
point out the atrocities that are happening with the desire that the world would get involved, so that it stopped being a Ukrainian and Russian issue and it just becomes a human right issue.
Right. And with Ukraine, do they really have anyone helping them as far as like sending troops, or are they really kind of all on their own right now as far as defending their
Well,
homeland against Russia?
and concerning manpower, Ukrainians are long in that regards, just manpower. Then there are unofficial soldiers from America, from Britain, from around the world that volunteer to join the armed services of Ukraine. And so Americans are dying, but these are not official American soldiers. These are just individual private citizens that are volunteering their time, or they are joining the Ukrainian military to support. So for almost every nation, a lot of nations are there on the ground. But again, in an unofficial capacity, these are private citizens. But in regards to money, you have Estonia, which is a major company. Estonia, a lot of countries are giving financially or in weapons. Just a couple of days ago, the United States signed a deal with a minerals deal with Ukraine, that is designed to create an investment opportunity for Ukraine to strengthen them economically after the war. And that just shows that President Trump's commitment to support Ukraine, even though today Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated that we would no longer be the primary negotiators for Ukraine, that we're taking a step back from that because Vladimir Putin refused to do a ceasefire because the international community would not recognize Crimea and the territories to which Russia has taken by force as Russian territory. And so Vladimir Putin desires for that to be recognized to the rest of the world, when, of course, we all know internationally those territories belong to Ukraine. So because of that, the United States have backed away from being the primary negotiators. Hence, what the Secretary of State said, we would no longer be flying around the world to do these mediation meetings. But that doesn't mean that America is not still supporting Ukraine. Matter of fact, President Trump just yesterday also authorized his first batch of weapons to be shipped to Ukraine. That's a major big deal because up until the javelins that President Trump sent at the very beginning, we haven't sent any armed weapons to support the Ukrainian mission. Just like I've shared with President Trump, if we don't stop Russia now, they will take all of Ukraine, and they will continue to take Moldova next. And then they're essentially trying to reestablish the territory of the USSR of 1991. And that's what we don't want to happen. They're trying to engulf these individual sovereign nations, and the Balkans will be next. The Balkan territories, the states will be next, to again essentially engraft them by force back inside of the former USSR. So that's their ultimate goal. And if we don't put a stop to them, that just puts them right in closer range to American interests around the world. To me, I view this as the 1960s Cuban Missile Crisis that took place in Cuba with Russia then, and President Kennedy had to put a stop to. We was on the brink of nuclear war with Russia. for those 13 days of holdout. But we're hoping that that doesn't happen. That's what we're trying to prevent. And when you hear people who, especially those of us on the right, will say no support for Ukraine, no support for Ukraine. Well, you don't understand supporting Ukraine is America first. Because if Russia is strengthening, remember, Russia wants to wipe America off the face of the planet. Let's be clear about that. We want peace and we want to end this war as fast as possible. 5,000 soldiers, Russian and Ukrainians, are dying every week, Mason, every week. And little children are getting their heads blown off. Old women, old people are getting killed. People going to church on Sundays are being destroyed by these drones that are happening right now. And they are attacking, Russia is attacking civilian locations, civilian. And so when I hear people who are on the MAGA right say no support for Ukraine, where they speak in ignorance, like I used to. I used to do just that until I actually got to Ukraine and I saw that the people are desperate. They don't want American taxpayers' dollars. They are needing weapons. And the international world is speaking out. And so President Trump made it very clear, even though we're backing away from negotiations as the main, we're not ending our negotiations with them, or we're not ending our mediation with them. We're simply saying we're not going to be the main negotiators anymore until both sides come up with a real solution that can bring a ceasefire. Vladimir Putin rejected the ceasefire. He's okay with killing more and more of his soldiers and killing them, sending them to their deaths. Young men and women been killed right there on the front lines. He's okay with that. And remember, Russia partnered with North Korea, right? And so when MAGA Republicans say no support for Ukraine, you're saying empowering Russia, who is siding with other axes of evil that desire to wipe off America with the face of the planet. Russia, Iran, North Korea. These are real countries that desire to destroy America as a superpower. And so you cannot just say no more support for Ukraine because you don't like Zelensky, right? And so my support for Ukraine is not, again, around the president. It's about the innocent people. And so that's the message that I was able to communicate with the president. That's the message that I communicate with the White House. And that's the message that I'm communicating with the world. And you see President Trump moving on it. He's turned favorable towards Ukraine. And again, we still have to take care of America first. When people hear this and they don't listen to everything I say, they say, oh, Pastor Burns is a warmonger. He wants to continue the war. No, we want to stop the war. But if Russia decides to do what Vladimir Putin always does and only responds to violence, because remember, he rejected the ceasefire. He rejected it. Zelensky wants a ceasefire. But Russia and Vladimir Putin rejected it. Now, more and more soldiers are going to continue to die. So if that happens, if the war doesn't stop, eventually they will lose all of Ukraine. Russia then will invade Moldova. Russia then will invade the Balkan states. And that's a problem for us. We do not need to strengthen them. We need to weaken them.
Are they wanting to bring back the Berlin Wall as well, like taking parts of Berlin? Is like Germany and Poland, is that on the radar as well?
Well, I think that, again, Vladimir Putin is in a weakened state. The country is in a very weakened state. The problem, Mason, is that they have nuclear powers. They have nuclear warheads. And our goal is to not push us to the place to where we're actually firing nuclear heads at us and us firing back at Russia. That's the problem that we're having. And if they didn't have nuclear weapons, this would have been easy because Russia's military is weak, as you can see. They have not been able to take Ukraine, but they have simply more manpower than Ukraine. That's the only thing that we're worried about. They just have more manpower. They can wait it out and ultimately don't mind sending more and more of their Russian soldiers to their deaths because Ukraine is there to kill them. And it is not easy for Russia, after all these years, have taken very little ground, and yet more and more soldiers are dying every day. And so one or two things are going to happen. One, Russia will continue on sending their soldiers to die. until Ukraine can no longer continue the war physically, or Russia will get tired of sending soldiers to die in Ukraine. And that you're starting to hear. Russians will get tired of it, and the population in mass will rise up against Russia. And they themselves, Vladimir Putin himself will have to deal with his own people who no longer want to send their brothers and their uncles and cousins and sisters to the front lines of Ukraine, could have gained very little in return, and still die just because he wants to try to take over a sovereign nation.
Was that is this one reason why Trump would like to purchase Greenland? Because to my understanding, I remember in school we learned about where U.S. troops were placed during the Cold War, and a lot of them were placed up in like northern Canada in order to to be on the lookout for nuclear missiles. That way, they'd be able to shoot them down. Is that you think maybe that's one strategy for President Trump why he wants to purchase Greenland from Denmark?
Absolutely, Mason, and I'm glad you brought that up because, again, this is a message for the MAGA Republicans who say no support for Ukraine. You're speaking armchair politics and you're not being educated into what's actually happening. You say no support to Ukraine means support Russia. Russia has been actively sending their nuclear submarines around Greenland, around that region, and we discovered it. That's why Greenland is a military strategic point to strengthen United States' interests and us as Americans. And so, don't believe the propaganda and the hype, trying to make out that Vladimir Putin and Russia are the good guys when they're not. They're the bad guys. And I hate it for the innocent Russians that are being forced to go to war. I've seen so many videos of soldiers, Russian soldiers, begging for their lives. They don't want the drone to drop on their bodies. They're wounded. I get them every day from Ukrainian soldiers who are on the front lines. And the reality of it is these people don't want to die either. And so I'm not out to make all of Russian bad. I'm here focusing on the Russian government that's perpetuating that lie. And the same thing goes for Ukraine. I'm not here to speak for the Ukrainian government, but we have to work with those entities so that we can bring peace in that region. But you're absolutely right about Greenland. It is a strong strategic point because Russia has been using it as a area to put strategic missiles, nuclear missiles, to harm the United States of America.
You there? All right. Yeah, I just had a little disconnection there, but yeah, I was gonna ask you again, compared to say Russia in the 80s, is it still more than likely a socialist country? Is there any trace of capitalism at all going on in the country, or is it pretty much the same as it always has been?
Yeah, let's be clear. Russia is a communist government. They mask themselves, try to mask themselves like there's more freedoms. But Russia is a communist nation. But that's not really the big issue. The issue is the fact is you have a crazy man by the name of Vladimir Putin who is doing what Russia has always done. There was a time where there were signs that Russia was coming around, and of course, the president's goal is to make our enemies our friends. We don't want to have enemies. We want to do business. We want everybody to prosper. We want Iran to prosper. We want Israel to prosper. We want the killings to stop. But if they continue on threatening the United States of America, then we have no choice but to arm ourselves and to defend our homeland. And the president's first job is to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States of America, hence the citizens, us, of this great nation. And so, but yes, it's still a communist nation. My point of it is this, Mason, and as God is using you and your platform, is to make sure you just speak the truth. Look at both sides and communicate the truth from both perspectives. And that will make you such a powerful journalist. Don't be like CNN and Fox News, the left and the right, that pushes propaganda that supports their partisan that their focus, their ideology, and in the meantime, it creates people to either hate or reject certain groups of people, and you don't want to do that. You want to be just a powerful journalist that communicates both sides. I am MAGA deep. I am 100% make America great again. I am 100% and will always be President Trump's pit bull, as he calls me. But I also know that most people, whom we may call enemies, desire to be friends, and they just don't want to die. They just don't want bombs dropped on their house. They want their cousins, their aunts, just like you and your family. You would be outraged if a family member of yours is accidentally killed by a bomb that was designed to kill some gangbanger down the street. And yes, the gangbanger needed to die, but your mama or your aunt or your sister who just happened to be walking by got blown to bits to pieces simply because there was no strategic way of killing that gangbanger. You had to blow everything else up, and your mom and your sister was killed, or your father was killed in the process. That's what's happening around the world. And howbeit we need to get rid of the bad guys 100%. Some people are just bad characters, and they pass judgment on their own by their actions. They need to die. They need to be locked up. They need to be wiped off the face of the planet, like the Houthis, who are just actively trying to hurt people, to push their ideology. And it's either convert or die. And that mentality, those people need to be wiped off the face of the planet. People should have a choice to live how they desire to live, as long as it doesn't bring harm or hurt or danger to other people. And so, just the point is, I'm not trying to make Russia the bad guys. I'm not trying to make Russia the good guys. And I at one point was believing Russia were good guys until I discovered the atrocities that they're doing. Anybody that kills innocent people are not good guys. I don't care what the purpose. That's why I don't stand behind the October 7th massacre. Some people may understand why the Palestinians did what they did, because many believe that Israeli government has about 2,000 of their people locked up, and they're calling those people hostages, just like how Israeli are calling the hostages in Israel hostages, in Palestine hostages. But you cannot kill innocent people and expect people to listen to you.
Right.
When you rape innocent people, when you kill innocent babies, when you kill women and children, and you rape women, and you say you're doing it because you're angry that somebody has your hostages. No, sir. There's always diplomacy. And there's always conversations. There's always other ways to do and get what you want without using senseless killings and acts of violence. If you want to attack a military, right? You don't kill innocent people. You don't kill innocent children.
That's right. Yeah, Jesus and his disciples, they were crucified, given a hard time, but they certainly did not hurt innocent people. Even when Peter cut off the ear of that soldier, Jesus told him not to do that.
Absolutely. You live by the sword. Jesus said you would die by the sword. And so that's what's happening to people who are using violence to get what they want. And that's why I'm condemning Russia. If Russia wanted to, use the diplomacy to try to get the land that they believe is theirs, then do it. America don't need to get involved. But when you start killing innocent people, when you start dropping bombs on innocent people, that's when it becomes a problem, not just for America, but it becomes a problem for the world. Hence, that's why the president said today, we need the European powers to get more involved in this situation. This is happening on your side of the world. And France and Great Britain and Germany, all those nations need to use their power, their might, their money to get involved. The only danger with that, Mason, is it puts us closer and closer to World War III. And that's what we don't want to have happen. Because again, Russia gets involved, if France gets involved, and Great Britain gets involved, and if Russia declares war on Great Britain and Russia or any NATO land, any NATO country, we then have to, by law and our treaties, immediately retaliate. And that's the danger of World War III. Because then you'll have Iran and North Korea, who clearly shows that they're incompetent soldiers. They're really incompetent soldiers, but they will commit more people. And again, the axis of evil of World War II will come back. And there are other nations. Belarus supports Russia, and they're on the other side of Ukraine. And so
China.
again, China, absolutely, China is involved. And so my point is, you get these other nations who are, then you'll get Iran and most likely Pakistan, and you'll get more of the terrorists and their networks that desire to hurt the Western world. You'll see more terrorist attacks happen around the world because America will be so focused on committing physical troops. We don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. But now that's the stage that's been set, Mason. The president put it back onto the European nations. They got to get involved. And my prayer is it will be through diplomacy and not through more battles and killings.
Right, and I feel like the ones that say we shouldn't be helping Ukraine. Back in the '90s and up until like 2000s, people were getting frustrated with the United States. Seemed like they were being the world police, answering to everyone. When we have all of these alliances, like we said, the European Union. It just kind of seemed like the United States was, taking care of the other countries rather than focusing right on their home turf.
And I agree with you. That's why I agree with the president's decision. I mean, we're only going to commit to what we can commit, but the president made it very clear that the America First agenda is the America First agenda. But at the same time, you have to understand. Yeah, I agree with that. We cannot be the police of the world. I echo that. I agree with that 100%. But Russia is Russia. Russia is not
Right.
Sudan, right? Russia is not some small country in the middle of nowhere. They're Russia, and they are actively trying to destroy the American dollar through the BRICS associations of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And they are actively trying to devaluate the American dollar and create a new currency where they don't need the American dollar. That is bad for America. That is America first. That's what we need to understand. And the more
Right.
powerful Russia gets, the greater chance that they have to hurt America. So no, we don't need to be police of the world, but we cannot sit back and let a giant like Russia gain power while
That's
they
right.
actively are trying to hurt us.
So that ultimately will affect the United States. Yeah, if they become the Soviet Union again and keep getting stronger and stronger, then it is going to be a problem for the United States.
That's one of the goals, Mason. And only people who understand the foreign policies of the world and understand international politics will understand that. Russia, I want them to be our friends. I don't want us to fight Russia. I don't want us to fight nobody. I don't want no wars. But if they proceed to try to hurt America interests, the American dollar, that affects us right here in Easley, South Carolina, Mason. If the dollar value continues to drop because Russia and China has partnered together in Africa. People say, why are you in Africa? Why are you even thinking about Africa? Because Africa is a cesspool for terrorists. And it's a cesspool for strengthening the ruble, which is the currency of Russia, and the yen, which is the currency of China. This is not some conspiracy right-wing message. This is what's really happening. China was on the verge of bankruptcy until they gained unprecedented access to the mines of Africa and the precious rare minerals that they discovered in Africa restricted the value of the yen. And so people say, well, we don't want to go to Africa. They're in the middle of nowhere. Let's not deal with. Well, you don't understand why Africa is important. You don't understand why Ukraine is important. You don't understand how that impacts us right here in America. We won't have an America First agenda if we don't have an America. And they want to
That's right.
weaken us and weaken our financial power. That's our biggest weapon, is the money that America makes. And if they can destroy that, if they can attack that, they can attack our military. They can weaken our infrastructure. They can weaken our politics. They can weaken our policies. and then they eventually can invade us on our own land. That's the ultimate goal for those who want to bring America might down while raising themselves up. And China and Russia are our two biggest foes who want to do it. Iran, if they could be in a position, they would do it too. North Korea, they would do it too. And so these are the things that we're dealing with. In South Korea, same thing, same exact thing. China, half of folks want to side with China, and another half wants to side with America. And if we lose Korea, the other half of it, remember, North Korea already belongs to China. They're already communists. But if you lose South Korea to China, then there goes the whole country. You're talking about Taiwan now. You're talking about the chips, the super chips that we put in our phones, in our computers. It's bigger than, oh, don't send no more money to Ukraine. Well, if you knew the truth, you would know that I mean, yes, we got to take care of America. That means we don't need to be spending money on transgender support. Let's start there. We don't need to be spending money on weakening the military by helping sexual augmentation, sex change surgeries paid by the federal government. Right? There's a lot of ways we can cut money. and a lot of money that can be cut for ridiculous woke agendas that the president is already doing and is doing it right now. But at the same time, we don't need to leave our partners who are at the mercies of China and Russia and Iran to them, because we lose them, then we lose our ability to continue to promote American interests around the world, which affects what happens right here at home.
So I agree with you 100%. And while you're on the air, is there anything else you'd like to say to our viewers this evening?
No, I love you, Mason. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so proud of you, my friend. Keep up the good work. Keep spreading the word. Keep being as prosperous as you are, keeping your face out there, and keep supporting us here in South Carolina and those around the world. I mean, South Carolina is my home, and this is my, the upstate of South Carolina is my ground zero, and of course, Easley is where I live at, and so I'm thankful that you have a platform that allows people, whether they are dealing in the international politics or they're dealing with local politics right here. You have a wonderful platform, and I wish you nothing but great success.
I certainly appreciate it. And do you think that you'll run for an office again in the future?
we don't know what the Lord has in store. I mean, again, I'm a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. That's my number one goal, and of course, supporting the president into whatever and however he desires for me to serve. I serve at the pleasure of the president, and then I serve at the pleasure of the people of South Carolina, and if it be the people of third district. I'm the second district of South Carolina. So whatever that may be, I mean, I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I'm also saying it's not going to happen. I'm just serving, and right now my focus is just serving God's people and serving President Trump in the capacity he needs me.
Well, I wish you the best on your upcoming visits. I know you definitely got a busy schedule ahead of you with countries to visit, but I wish you the best as well.
Thank you so much, Mason. We'll talk to you soon. Congratulations.
And that concludes our show for this evening. If you have not already, please feel free to click like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube channel for future updates, and also follow our Facebook page as well. I hope that everyone has had a great week and will have a good upcoming weekend. So tune in next week. We'll have several guests lined up for you. So again, thank you again for watching. Good night to everybody. God bless America. Thank you.